I couldn't believe I threw a first pitch into the opening day for the Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox, and everybody was so excited about the opening day of baseball. And I never realized how important that was. It's kind of like that with our teams, new team. This is the first time these guys have ever practiced together because we had about 10 or 15 guys come this summer. So it's fun to have everybody back out here, and it was fun. Randy Clements is sick, and he was not able to be out here today. He texted me about 4 times. How's it going? I said, Randy, I'll show you the video. We're good. We are good. But he should be back in a day or two. We're just not really sure. We want to make sure he's healthy. Just popped up yesterday afternoon, in fact. So he'll be back soon. It's great that the analysts and the quality control coaches can coach now legally. It really, really helps us. You think about having a guy like Clyde Christensen who can coach quarterbacks, and he's coached the best quarterbacks in the country, and that gives Chip Lindsey an opportunity to move around. We've got a young guy named Caleb Pickrell that coached our offensive line in the bowl game against Oregon when Coach Bicknell and Coach Longo left, so he's helping coach the offensive line with Kyle Fuller, who's an 8-year NFL player, and he played for Randy at Baylor. We've got Corey Gaynor that's coming back. He's going to help us as a volunteer. We've got to get him cleared, but he'll be coming back and helping us as well. And then you've got Ty McKenzie, that's an 8-year NFL player and 8-year NFL coach that's helping Tommy Thigpen with the linebackers. Jimmy Lindsey's been the defensive line coach at Illinois, South Carolina, and LSU. He's helping Ted Monachino up front. So, and there's many more. We've got Eric Mealy, who was the special teams coordinator for Mike Leach at Washington State and at Mississippi State, and he'll be a huge help with our special teams. So the fact that we can add those guys on the field and they weren't coaching for us really, really helps us. And that helped us with the organization today. And your opening day, you want enthusiasm, which you better have. You want to have a good practice, which you better have. I've never had a bad one. If you have a bad one the first day, you should just shut it down and give it up. But you want to be organized, and you got a lot of new players, and this is the most players you'll have on your team. You got all 120 for preseason. You usually have 100, 105. Sometimes they gave you 110. This year they're giving you 120. So it was really, really important that the drills were organized, and we got a lot of work and moved a lot of people around. We've got more depth than we've had since we've been here. Now what we've got to do as coaches is let them separate themselves and figure out which ones we can give the most time and energy to and let them play. We've got 3 really talented quarterbacks. We can't play 3 quarterbacks, obviously. So we've got to figure out in a 10-day period or so who gets all the reps headed down toward the Minnesota game. And we've got 5 running backs and 13 receivers. We've got a lot of good players. So we've got to figure out who gets those snaps as we go back through. And I told them today that football's a hard game, and that what you've got to do is you've got to compete every day at a very high level. Great teams, great players, great coaches cannot have bad days. When we come out here and say the offense had a bad day at practice, that means you're probably going to be an inconsistent team. And we've had too much of that around here. Defense wasn't good today. Well, then you're probably not. There's times you will not be good because your practice is going to simulate how you're going to look in a game. So, and I told them, you've got to take care of your bodies. They're out here running full speed for 2 hours, and they're going to do it for 28 days. They're going to do it again tomorrow night, and then they'll do it the next night. And the ones that aren't taking care of their bodies at a high level with hydration are going to pull. And that's just the way it is. They're going to run into each other. So the best teams are the ones that can compete at a very high level every day, every practice, and stay healthy. And that's what our team has to do to continue to get better. You probably noticed the helmet covers, the protection. Every player on the team except the quarterbacks, the kickers, and the punters wore those because they're not getting hit, and it's optional for them. The NFL this year has come out with a study that by wearing those in practice, there's a lot fewer concussions. So they are telling their players they have to wear them. So we're telling ours the same. We feel like if the NFL thinks it's that important for them, then we're wearing it. Obviously, they will not wear them in a game, but our players will be required to wear them at every practice. Questions?
Mack, you had so many injuries toward the end of last season. Guys like Elijah, Cope, Bryson. You mentioned at ACC kickoff you're going to try to play more guys, just rotate more guys through. Are you doing anything different in preseason practice to maybe save their bodies up for the actual games?
We are, but we're changing up our numbers of play some, and we're going to protect some guys who have played a whole lot. I remember Steve Spurrier saying if Omarion Hampton's already had a lot of hits, how many hits does he need in preseason? But the other young backs need a lot of hits. We need to see if Caleb Hood's healthy, because he looked really good tonight. Can he stay healthy? Because he's a very good player. He's one of the best running backs in the ACC when he's healthy. We need to look at Darwin Barlow. We've got to look at the young junior college player that just came in, and Devion Goss. So we're going to hit more, but we're going to hit more with a lot of the inexperienced players, so they will be more ready to play. And then I also told them tonight that special teams is 1/3 of the game. And we talk about it all the time, but somebody says, I don't want to play on special teams, and that's very selfish because they don't want to help our team, because that's 1/3 of how we win. So if you're not enthusiastic about special teams, then you probably need to go do something else.
Mack, I was going to say, how deep into practice will you go before you decide on the starting quarterback and give him more reps than the other two guys?
Yeah, Chip, what I've liked in my experience is about 10 days or a week before the start. Let him be the starter so he's comfortable talking to the team as the starter, and also let him talk to you all before the game. I've never been one of those guys that said you'll see at game time. Mark Packers said, I'm supposed to tell you when the huddle breaks in the first game, then you'll know who the starting quarterback is. Well, we don't huddle anymore, so that's kind of hard to do. But I'd like for them to compete at a very high level. They're going to have one of them's going to look good one day, and the other one's going to look better the next day. So if you go back and forth every day, then it gets confusing for them. We want to get a body of work. Chip and Clyde Christensen have given them 5 things that they need to be successful at if they're going to take the job. And then in the morning, we'll meet twice tomorrow before we practice as position groups. They will go through every play in practice with those 5 things and said, this quarterback did these things better today than you did. So coming out of this practice, you did a better job. And we'll see what happens tomorrow night.
So ultimately, you're looking at consistency. Who matches most of those 5 boxes are checked on a regular basis in the next
Absolutely.
couple of weeks.
We have been an inconsistent team. We've won some games we shouldn't have won, and we've lost some games we shouldn't have lost. And we've got to be a consistent team at a high level to get past the 8-9 wins. And that's what I've told them. And we've got to press them in practice enough that they cannot have bad days, and that we're going to be more consistent.
I know it's just one day, but did you see a little bit of those boxes being checked today that more so than perhaps were checked in the spring? Do you see, or is it too soon to tell?
It's too soon to tell. You know, sounds facetious, but you can't play football without pads. So I've told them we will not have a lot of movement. The depth chart will be fluid, but we're not going to have a lot of movement until we get in pads, because toughness is a huge part of this thing. And defensive guys were running through holes and knocking guys back. They don't have pads on. I mean, so you can say, God, he looked great. No, I told him not to hit. I mean, so we've told them, you learn what to do in the first 3 days, and then we'll start figuring out who plays in the 4th practice.
Mack, what are the 5 things for evaluating?
They're different at every position.
Quarterback?
I'm not going to go through them exactly because I don't have them in front of me, but
Sure.
They would be know the offense backwards and forwards so you can get us in the right play at the right time, get the ball out of your hands, and do not take a quarterback sack because we've had too many of those. It would be accuracy as a passer. It would be the ability to get the ball to the right guy. Don't just throw the deep ball if it's not there. Come down and get the ball to a really good player underneath. You don't get the big play every time, and take care of the ball. So those would be 5 of the maybe 7 things that we would ask them to do.
Mack, how is Kobe Paysor looking to you? Looks like he's still doing some things on the side with AJ, but he was out here obviously running around, I think, in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. Like, what, just to your eye, what do you see?
The only player that was really limited today was Timmy Lawson. He had the knee operation in September, October, and that's usually a 9-month. So he can do things, but they don't want him in the contact. Everybody else can be out there doing everything. Freddie did a great job last year managing 3 tight ends that were hurt most of the season and trying to get them to practice enough to play. But Bryson made it through when he probably shouldn't. Gosh, Copenhagen broke 2 or 3 things, and he still ended up playing, which was amazing to me, and he wouldn't come out. So what we've challenged our coaches to do is, especially Lonnie, Chris Culliver's had a hip that's sore. Kobe's had both feet broken, bone broken in both feet at one time or the other. So they've got to practice them but manage their load so they can continue to work but stay healthy and not overdo and pull them out.
Matt, can you talk a little bit about the collective that you guys have launching in a couple of days and how that might affect things?
Yes, we've been behind. I've talked about that, and we've been way behind. And I think we weren't aligned. To be good in anything, you got to have alignment, you got to have a strategic plan, and you got to follow through with a plan. And we haven't done that. We've got 28 sports that we're all on our own with our own collectives, just asking for donations, and that ends up being donor fatigue. Is what it does. And now we're together. We're working with the Rams Club. Because that got confusing early about what donations should go to the Rams Club, what should go to which collective, what's a tax write-off. I mean, there's a lot of learning process here, and you got to navigate this thing through really difficult waters. Now everything's going to go to one collective. People are going to be able, the way I understand it, without getting into detail before it's launched, they're going to be able to designate where they want their funds to go, and it's going to be a lot better for all of us. And then who knows what's going to happen with the lawsuit, with the revenue sharing, what's going to happen with Title IX, what's going to happen with the amount of money that each school is going to have to come up with that they haven't, how will that money be divided? Between now and next August, there are a lot of things that have to be decided that are changing with NIL.
Mack, I was going to ask you, since we're talking about money, the ACC was talking about the Success Initiative, the fact that a school could really enhance its financial picture with wins in the major sports. Considering there's been so much discussion about you could be $10 million behind an SEC school or whatever as these TV contracts escalate, like how vital do you think that is? And do you think it's something that, for all the talk of equitable distribution in conferences, may be something we see more, not just in the ACC?
I think, Aaron, is if we go back and look at it, when we were at Texas, they did that to keep the Big 12 together. We had the Longhorn Network, which was different, but then the money was different. The TV was a little bit different. And I'm not sure, you'd have to ask Bubba and Jim Phillips about that, but I'm hearing some of the same. I think the more you win, the more you deserve. And I did feel like that when they were talking about the playoffs, that I did think that the ACC and the Big 12 deserved the same amount of money that the ACC and the Big 10 and the SEC got, because they were talking about things in the past. We're talking about things in the future. So I was disappointed that we didn't get as much money in the 2 leagues as the SEC and the Big 10.
How much do you think it can change the bottom line? Do you think Jim Phillips is talking about 25 million? If everything has a really great year,
yeah.
I mean, is it more just the fact that there's an option there that is less about the specific dollars, or do you think the dollars it matters?
Yeah.
Period. What it is.
This will sound like a coaching answer. I'm worried about who our quarterback is, so I'd ask Bubba very honestly and Jim, because they're the ones that are athletics directors' jobs have gotten really hard. They've gotten really difficult now with the cost of attendance, with the academic stipend. We're paying for parking for players now. And then on top of that, you've got a collective that's asking for money, and it's taking booster money away from facilities and coaches' salaries and season tickets. And so athletic directors' jobs have gotten really difficult. But I really don't understand enough about it to know exactly where we're headed.
I was going to say, why do you keep doing this? You're in the Hall of Fame. You won all these games.
Why do you keep doing
finan-
it? You're old.
I don't make the money you do. That's why.
No, but your wife won't let you come home. You told me
Well, I know
that
that,
earlier.
yeah, I
So. Sally's here. She don't want me to come home either.
But
It's a good question. I've had coaches ask me that in our league. And I said this at the ACC Media Days. I was with Coach Paterno when he was 85 and Coach Bowden when he was 84. And I asked them, what are you doing? They were coaching. I said, that's going to be the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And Coach Paterno said, I got 17 grandkids and no hobbies. So I don't have anything to do. In fact, he said, I don't want to hang out with those grandkids every day for 12 hours or something. And Sally said, do you even know their names? And he said, yeah. And Sue was behind him, Paterno, and she said, he really doesn't. He knew Joe. So that was one that he got right. And then I asked Coach Bowden, and it was very interesting. Coach Bowden said, the day that I quit coaching, the next significant day of my life will be the day that I'm buried. And, you know, the thing that you all have and the thing that I have is a purpose. And we like what we do. And you get up every morning with something you've done your whole life. I've done this. Somebody was asking me today, this is my 37th camp as a head coach. I would not know what to do next year if I didn't have this. I don't know what I'd do. I'd be walking out in the street looking for something to do on opening day. And I love these kids. And it sounds like a coach speak again, but every time I get mad at the NCAA or North Carolina or collectives, or I go eat lunch with them and they're asking me questions and they're wanting to know about this and that. And I said, I got a purpose. So that's really, and I love the game of football. And I've been involved with it my whole life for longer than 50 years because I played before I coached. And we've got some things we got to fix. And I came back and promised North Carolina I'd try to make them relevant again. We are relevant. But I don't want to just run off while things are a mess. I'd like for things to get settled and feel really good about where we are before I start doing something else.
And just going back to the collectives for a moment, I know we've talked about this and just how huge that's been in terms of roster management. How have you been able to balance that while also preparing for the season and also, you know, making sure you're taking time off, going to the mountains and getting that?
Yeah. The roster management's been a little crazy, but what we've had to do is look at a very small pool of guys that we think can come here and stay here. So we've got to get smart guys that want a North Carolina degree. We've got to get some families with money that aren't going to take more money the first time somebody flashes it at them, because we've got to get guys that won't back out on us before they sign. If somebody loses theirs, they'll come and try to offer ours a bunch of money. But we also have to get young guys like Omarion Hampton and Kamen Rucker that when they're offered a whole lot of money, Drake May, Josh Downs, they're not going to leave here because they love it here so much. So it changed who we are as a recruiting group. We have to look very specifically at that group of people that we feel like will want to come here, will not take a lot more money to leave right before they sign or in the second or third year. And right now, we've only had one starter leave. So we've been really, really lucky with that. And we're getting better with our collective, and we're getting I think we'll start being competitive. And who knows for sure what's going to happen next year when the lawsuit gets settled and the money comes back in-house, and it sounds like there will be a certain amount of money for schools, and it'll be more like salary caps. So I think we're going to put some sense into this thing here moving forward pretty soon.
Mack, for this season, Tyler Craft announced he was going to, kind of move into a student coaching, type of role. How did that, kind of come about? I know he obviously had been out here already, but how did that kind of come about to where he would, kind of slide into that role?
Ty Lee has been the most courageous human being I've ever seen over the last 2 years. I think it's been about 2 years. Here's a young guy with stage 4 cancer. He gets some kind of treatment about every week or 2 weeks. And he gets sick. He still comes to every practice. He comes to every meeting. I asked him before I broke the team down, I said, what do you think? He said, we look pretty good, got a lot of work to do. So that's what I told him. I said, you got a coach over here that just said, you look pretty good, but you got a lot of work to do. And I'm just amazed at how he keeps his head up and stays positive every day. And there have been some really bad reports during his time. I mean really bad. And then he comes and keeps fighting. It gets better. So he just goes back and forth. So I think he really wanted to become a coach, and he'll travel with us, and he'll be at every meeting and every practice. And then he did say, when I get well, I want to come back and play. And he'll be able to do that. So just we hope and pray every night that this thing goes away.
With the process that building offensive line depth is, you've said a couple times you hope to have 9 or think maybe you can get to 9. Is that a goal, or is that possible by the time you guys take off from Minnesota, or is that something that may just kind of gradually occur throughout the course of the season?
It's a good question, Andrew. I think it's a goal for Minnesota. If we're going to play them, then we got to play them. And I've just got to get to a point. I've encouraged them. And to be more fair to our coaches, it sounds like I said we want to play more, and some have. Lonnie's played a lot of receivers at different times, and Larry Porter's always played 2 to 3 running backs. But we haven't had the depth we've got now. Now, some of our depth is really young, but it's very talented. So we're just going to have to play some young players and go for it. There's out there today in the white offensive line, which would be our second group, we had Zach Greenberg at center. We had Aiden Banfield at left guard. So you're starting to look at new guys. Leftwich played both left and right tackle. Ja'Kai Leftwich coming in. So if you've got 5, that's 8 right there if those 3 can play. And then you start looking at some other guys that are competing at a high level. So I think we've got a chance to get to our 8 at least, and maybe 9. And that'd be the first time we've done that in a long time. And then to do that, we're going to have to say, these guys go in the 3rd series.
I know you've only seen him one day. I'm just curious your initial reaction to seeing Zach out there, given where he came from and kind of step right into a totally different level.
Yes, I thought he would probably be afraid and nervous. So nervous, he snaps well. We haven't watched him yet. They say he can deep snap really well, and he did it in his college. But I watched him all day, and he played guard and center today, and he didn't seem to miss a beat. He didn't seem out of place. He didn't seem nervous. And he's really strong. He's very smart. He's very athletic. So I think that we definitely found a guy that has a chance to be really good at our level that very few people knew about.
You've changed a lot with the culture, the staff over the last couple of years. Did you feel like that things were maybe different at all today to start camp this year?
Yeah, I feel good about every camp. Fans get frustrated with you when you say you think you're going to be good. Well, they don't want you to say you think you're going to be bad. And you want to be good. So that's part of your personality. You hope you're good. You want to be good. You're thinking you're good. You're planning on winning all the games. And I really liked what I saw. Now, I'll go immediately to the office and watch every play. And what you'll find is there are 120 guys running around out here, and some of them are going to play better than I thought they did, and some of them are not going to be as good. And then I'm going to sit there, and we'll have our staff meeting tomorrow after we talk to the team and after they go over the 5 things at every position. And then in their mind, some are going to elevate and some are going to fall down, and then it depends on how you do it. If you tell a guy you're not playing as well and he pouts, and then he's going to be out of here. We just yelled at him about not keeping the locker room and the players' lounge clean. That's like having too many penalties. Pick it up. And I told him, I'm going to tell you one more time, if it's not clean tomorrow, we're going to run as a team till you get real tired. So you got a choice. So we need to cut all that out. We got to cut out penalties, more penalties. We've got to get more turnovers. We've really protected the ball well. Our offense has played well enough to win. Our defense and special teams haven't, and that's where we got to get better.
Mack, any reason for moving the first few practices at least tonight as opposed to the morning?
Yes, great point. We had finals all day today and tomorrow.
Summer finals?
Yes. Yeah. It's the end of summer school. Because we're playing early, we had to start early. We would have had half our team miss practice if we had practiced this morning. So to their credit, too, these kids are out here all day at a very, very tough academic school studying, and then they come out here and we have to do this, and then they've got finals again in the morning. So, and we felt like it worked perfectly for us because we could take them into an environment where we have like a pregame meal for Minnesota, practice around 7, which the game's going to be at 7 their time at night, 3 nights in a row here. We only have finals the first 2 nights. The third night we thought we would go again because we have the fourth day is a recovery day, and we didn't want to practice late at night Tuesday and early morning Wednesday. So we felt like a recovery day. Then we'll go back to morning practices. So we get 3. We'll have a scrimmage at night at some point to be like Minnesota, maybe 2 of those, and then we'll go back to our morning workouts.
It's a lot cooler too.
It is a lot cooler, and we found that they run a lot more, and they're a lot more excited for the first day than any other practice of the year. And if you're not careful, we used to practice 24 periods instead of 16, and then have a bunch of pulls on the third day and wonder why. Well, they got totally exhausted because they're running and they're excited and they don't have pads on, so everything moves a little faster. So we've learned let's gradually move into this thing instead of overdo it the first day.
Mack, you sure? Do you at punter? Do you anticipate any sleepless nights there? Not to bring up anything bad.
I thought Tom killed it today. He really punted well. Yeah, you always do with punters and kickers. It always makes you nervous. But and the young one, Lucas, he didn't do as well today, but he's really good. We loved him. We can work him out now that we had a camp, and I thought he was really good. And that's his first day in college, and he's nervous. And so I think he'll be much better moving forward. But Tom did not have a good spring, and we were all over him. And he knows we aggressively looked for somebody else. But I was really impressed with what he did today. And he's 23, and he's married. He's a year older, so he should be getting Social Security here pretty soon. So
that helps the foot at all?
Yeah. No, but I thought he was good today, and he knew we were watching.
Yeah.
And there's a tremendous amount of pressure on him, but I thought he did really well.
Mack, you were talking
And he got it off on time. I mean, that's another thing that's really important.
Mack, you were talking about the locker room, cleaning the locker room. Is that where the whole team goes in there and cleans it up, or just
Absolutely.
the freshmen? And why
No.
was that important to you? Just
Because
I know you mentioned penalties, but just
little things are important, and that's penalties are so many of your penalties are pre-snap penalties or post-whistle penalties. Mm-hmm. They're roughing the passer, they're hitting late, they're shoving somebody, and the others are lining up off sides. It's been illegal motion, false start, lining up in an illegal formation, all of that stuff, lack of discipline. Our kids that got the best academics in the ACC, why would we ever have any of that? It's just stupid. So we're going to make sure that every little thing, they don't miss a class, they don't miss a study session, they're not late to anything, they park in the right place. They're going to have the cleanest locker room and the cleanest player lounge in the country. And I'm walking through there tomorrow on my way to practice because I told the players, you're a player-led team. I don't want to walk in there and clean it up. So you all get it cleaned up, or you're going to run as a team. We clean it up as a team, or we run as a team. It's your choice. And it will be clean.
Mack, as important as obviously the quarterback position is, you do of course have Marion Hampton in that backfield as well. How much does that, if at all, kind of impact the decision when you're trying to pick between those guys of like, all right, well, whoever wins the job does have that back there. Like,
yeah.
How much does that affect?
It's another good question, because when you look at it, what do each one of them do best? And then you've got to make sure you can give each one of them what they do best and still have an offensive line that can work on it enough, because some of it may be a little bit different. So that's our chore as coaches in the next 3 weeks. We've got to do a great job of taking all the talent and narrowing down the talent to who is going to be the best players in the game that we can play. And we've told them, we're going to be really hard on you, and you're going to separate. And you're going to do it. Some of you are going to give out. Some of you are going to pull up. Some of you are just going to not play good at some days because you get tired. You're telling us that you're not ready to beat Minnesota. So we've got to do a great job of putting the pressure on them so they can tell us who's ready to do this and who's not. And then we've got to have a perfect plan for them. Even if it's a little bit different with the quarterbacks, we got to have a perfect plan for them that our offensive line can handle moving forward. What you do is you take difference makers. For instance, Omarion Hampton is a difference maker. So he needs a certain amount of touches in a game. Bryson Nesbitt is a difference maker. So he needs a certain amount of touches during the game. And then you start looking at the Kobe Pacers. Is he going to be well? You start looking at the Nate McCullums, who had a great Minnesota game last year. And he had an outstanding spring. He looked in spring like he did at Minnesota, so hopefully he's back on track. Then you look at J.J. Jones. Those are three guys that have been around a long time. And then you've got the young ones that you've got to figure out which ones are ready to step up. But who are you going to get the ball to? How are you going to get it to them? And how many touches should each one get? Coach Switzer told me a long time ago, don't ever hand it to one or throw it to one that can't score. And if you throw it to a slow one, then he's going to be slow. So we've got to figure out who has a chance to score every time they touch it, and they're the ones that need to be in the game and get the ball in their hands. I told Sean McVay, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, kind of almost like a personnel fit, as well, as far as...
Absolutely. I gave a quote to the staff in the staff meeting this afternoon, and I won't get it right, but Sean McVay said, don't waste snaps in games. Well, I told the coaches, don't waste snaps in practice. Don't come out here and just practice to practice. Have a purpose on everything that we do, every drill we do, and every play that we do. Because we've got to figure out how to finish. And there's reasons, there's things that we can fix, but we can't just... Coach Bowden said it the best, you keep doing the same things that are mistakes, you keep making the same mistakes. You can't do it. You practice mistakes, they stay mistakes.
You hear from any voices today that surprised you, or maybe somebody that you hadn't heard from?
On the field, it's hard because I just walked off, to be fair. But yeah, I think a guy like Caleb Cost has got a chance to be a really good player. He missed spring, but he could run last year, and he's a really good safety. We're better at safety now with Jakeem Harris and Will Hardy, and you've got Stick Lane, and there's another one.
Boykins.
Dre Boykins is back. We're better right now than we've been too deep at safety. And one of the 5 things we were talking about, safeties have to be able to tackle in space. If you can't, you're going to lose because everybody spreads you out and puts those best players in space, and we haven't done that very well. Safeties and corners have to be able to play the ball deep, and they have to be able to intercept some balls. So we're better at those things than we've been, and we just line up better. The 2 corners right now are better than we've been. Elijah Huzzy and Marcus Allen. Marcus is bigger, he's stronger, and he's well. And he was skinny. So we've really worked with nutrition and the strength coaches to get him bigger and stronger, and he looked really pretty out there today. And I mean, when I walked by him in stretch, and I said, if I'm watching the other team, I said, ooh, man's good looking. So that's just now we got to find some guys behind him. I thought Terrain Stewart looked good today. He's going to be a good football player. He's older. He's mature. We've got Amari Campbell's a good linebacker. Power's really good. Now we've got to find 3 behind them. And it's interesting. I'm really impressed with a number of those guys. But there's some young ones that jump out. And that's where we're going to have the confidence and guts to just put them in and let them play.
Coach, what have you seen so far from Joshua Harris?
Joshua Harris is, I talked to him today. I think he's 350. He'd like to be 340, and he'll lose 10 in preseason. That's what happens to them. But I love him as a person. He's confident. He's strong-willed. He's a father with 2 children and very mature. And he brings a maturity and some strength and power to that defensive line. So I really like what I see. And you get a guy like that, this is his chance to be an NFL player. That's it. He's at the end here. So he will give us everything he's got because he wants to play at the next level, and this is it.
Good.
Anything else?